We need to talk about Colorado's best-known produce and what it takes to produce it.
If you like your Palisade peach or your Pueblo chili, Rocky Ford melons, San Luis Valley potato, I think it'd be a lot harder to produce that.
Farm workers say they need an act of Congress to find workers. Denver public schools may get rid of de-escalation rooms after school board members accused a principal, fired after whistleblowing over safety, of misusing his de-escalation room and mistreating students. Thousands of families want spots in universal pre-K. Providers have those open spots, but the money is not there to make it work. And reflecting on 7 years of a strange little newscast that is somehow still on the air because you're watching it. An anniversary edition of Next. Palisade peaches, Pueblo chili, Rocky Ford melons. That deliciousness does not get to our dinner tables without the people who pick and prepare our produce. Colorado's farmers telling anybody who will listen, including our Mark Salinger, they need more help.
From the peach orchards of Palisade.
Now we are in the middle of harvest.
To the fields on the eastern plains.
It's absolutely critical to have a strong workforce.
Farmers across Colorado find themselves harvesting their crops while wishing there was more help.
We wouldn't be growing peaches today if we didn't have access to that program.
For 5 generations, Bruce Talbot and his family have produced peaches and wine in Palisade. They rely on seasonal workers from outside the country to travel here every summer for the harvest. The H-2A visa they arrive on is crucial.
We are 100% dependent on H-2A.
Farmers and ranchers in Colorado say they hire the majority of their workers using programs like H-2A. But they say it's expensive, bureaucratic, and increasingly harder to get enough people to finish the job.
It's hard to find those folks, and it's getting more challenging.
Dan Waldvogel is the director of the Rocky Mountain Farmers Union.
We need, a guest worker program. We need a path to citizenship for folks, and then we need to have options like H-2A.
This weekend, he met with Democratic Congresswoman Yadira Caraveo to try and come up with solutions. They're asking for changes to make it easier and cheaper to get the labor they need. Zach Riley with the Colorado Livestock Association was also there.
The red tape is a mile long, and it is almost impossible to get somebody here.
It's a topic that's become entrenched in politics around the country.
People are conflating border security and immigration problems with H-2A and seasonal work for people that want to come work, make good money, and go home.
From peaches to melons and chilies to potatoes, Colorado is only famous for its crops because of the workers who harvest them.
We wouldn't be growing peaches today if we didn't have access to that program.
Representative Caraveo is a Democrat taking on this issue to reform a program that often impacts the more conservative parts of her district. Today, her office told us she hopes to shorten processing times, increase the number of people who can come here on visas, and Kyle, ensure that the conditions are safe for everyone who comes here to work.
These farmers have any luck hiring Americans to do the work?
They try to. That's their first choice. There's this notion of, well, these people are coming from outside of the country just to steal American jobs. They say that's completely false. They try to and want to hire American workers, but they say they can't. 90% of some of these farms are workers who are here on H-2A visas, and that's simply because there's no one else to work.
Interesting. Mark Salinger, thank you very much. Denver School Board continues to roll out new allegations against the leadership of McAuliffe International School following the firing of the principal there after he spoke to 9 News about safety concerns. Today we learned the former principal's number 2 man, Assistant Principal Micah Claver, has been placed on leave himself. DPS will not say why, but the board is saying that McAuliffe's leaders broke district policy in the way that they used a monitored seclusion room for out-of-control students. Steve Steger went to the school board's latest public briefing as they continue to lay out their case against McAuliffe's leadership. And Steve, so we had the school's top 2 leaders out right before the start of the school year.
And the district coming in to retrain the entire staff on the district's seclusion policy. So this morning, Board Vice President Eonte Anderson said an anonymous whistleblower had claimed that all of McAuliffe's administrators worked as a group to lock students inside the school's de-escalation room. And after he said the interim principal, who was an assistant principal at the time, was among them. Both Denver police and the district are investigating these claims by an anonymous whistleblower, but Anderson said today the whistleblower won't speak to investigators. He also told me board members don't know the identity of the whistleblower or the 6 others that the whistleblower represents. The allegations led to the former principal admitting that at times students were placed in the room with an adult outside monitoring, a practice known as seclusion. DPS policy requires a staff member be inside that room. This morning, Anderson implicated Claver, saying the whistleblower said that he was part of a group of administrators who were on the outside monitoring the kids on the inside.
Multiple administrators would stand outside the door and hold it shut as a student would scream and destroy the room and try to get out. They would do this until the students tired themselves out and possibly fall asleep from crying. This could last 30 minutes to an hour or as long as it took.
So state law allows seclusion where school staff can observe a student through a window or on video. Also at this news conference, State Representative Regina English, a Democrat from El Paso County, who will carry a bill next session to ban these types of seclusion rooms in Colorado schools. Kyle.
Steve, do we know anything about the use of these rooms in other DPS schools? I mean, obviously the board is focused on McAuliffe, the principal who just happens to be suing them over what he says is a free speech violation for his firing. Do we know about the use of these rooms in other DPS schools?
We asked that as a group to the superintendent today. The superintendent says that among the instructions he's gotten from HR is to train McAuliffe specifically, but he assumes that he's going to have to train the entire school district on this seclusion policy. So take from that what you will. If that means that they're looking into these cases in other schools, the board also inviting anyone who has any reports of this going on in other schools across the district to bring them to the school board's attention or the school district's attention.
Steve Steger, thank you for that.
Yeah.
A push by far-right Republicans to close their party primaries to unaffiliated voters failed over the weekend at a party meeting. Measure that would have made it easier to opt out of open primaries had the support of the majority of Colorado's Republican leaders, but not the two-thirds that they needed to pass it. The Colorado GOP is trying a couple of methods to get out of open primaries. They also recently filed a lawsuit. The party's attorney in that is John Eastman, the unindicted co-conspirator from the latest Donald Trump indictment, the guy who cooked up the plan to overturn the election. Eastman faces a possible criminal indictment of his own, as well as the potential loss of his license to practice law out of California. Colorado's Republican Party leaders have said that if their lawyer gets de-lawyered, they'll just use him for advice and have somebody else sign the paperwork and appear in court. Colorado's newest law is on hold. It would have raised the age to buy a gun as of today. Gun rights group convinced a judge to block it for the time being. The law changed the age to buy a gun from 18 to 21. It's part of a package of bills Democratic Governor Jared Polis signed into law last April, preventing gun violence. The No Compromises gun rights group Rocky Mountain Gun Owners won an injunction against the new law today, and RMGO has seen quite a bit of success recently in stopping new gun control. Judges also put a hold on semi-auto bans and large-capacity magazine limits in Boulder, Superior, Louisville, and in Boulder County. So we've been telling you about the bait and switch of sorts in Colorado's universal pre-K program. More than 9,000 low-income families that planned on full-day pre-K are being told they only get half-day pre-K unless they can pay the difference. Tonight, our Marshall Zellinger talks with preschool providers who are caught in the middle.
This room will probably be empty for months, if not the full year.
It's not all rainbows and sunshine for Melissa Lelm and her early childhood university in Greeley.
We had 7 staff members last year, and now we have 3, which is myself, 1 teacher, and 1 teacher assistant.
As the first year of universal preschool begins on Monday, Melissa has a math problem.
Total, we can do 96 morning, 96 afternoon. And we have 31 kids.
Last year, she had 192 preschoolers, half in the morning, half in the afternoon. Next Monday, she's expecting just 31 total.
I think parents are hesitant and nervous and don't know how to enroll.
Wonder how your child is matched to a preschool?
The state has a nifty video explaining how preschoolers get matched to preschool.
Kids in programs are fairly matched with the help of a mathematical algorithm.
So far for Melissa, that has resulted in 31 students out of 192 slots.
It will close down a lot of businesses who have been in this county for a very long time, providing quality preschool and services for families, and it will put a lot of people out of work.
There's limited time to add new staff if more students get matched for a seat at a school with plenty of them.
The landlord wanted me to sign a 5-year lease, and we agreed only to a 1, because I'm not certain what the future will bring.
I have an updated number from the state. Out of 43,000 applicants, 39,000 have been matched to a preschool. The way it used to work, Kyle, parents would enroll their child through the district, and places like Michelle's would have a contract with the district, District 6 in Greeley. Now parents apply through the state, pick their top 5, and then that algorithm does the algorithm thing to place the preschooler in a school.
Why is the state playing matchmaker? Why not just like give the parents a voucher and then the parent finds out, is your school full? And then you go to the next one.
Because it's the word you just used, I think, is the answer, the V word.
Oh, I said voucher.
You said voucher. It seems like it could make sense. I don't know how the algorithm really works, but it could make sense, especially if there are a lot of providers like hers that have empty spots. Now, schools may have just opened up new classrooms and they're getting all of the school districts are getting all the preschoolers instead of the private preschools. I guess we'll have to see 1 year's worth of information to figure out if that V word might have helped.
Just impacts so many families. All right, Marshall, thank you. Hey, I want to thank you for what you did to help our neighbors in Aurora recently. Your latest Word of Thanks micro-giving campaign has raised almost $12,000 for the Dawn Medical Clinic. They provide care at no cost to people in need. We're going to have a back-to-school micro-giving campaign coming up on Wednesday. As your $5 donations continue your $11 million legacy of generosity in every corner of our state. As always, if you have ideas of a community that could use our help, you know of a need somewhere, just email me. I read each and every email that comes to next@9news.com.
We basically rated this route in F as a letter grade. You know, if we were getting a report card coming home from school. It was one of the worst routes in the state.
So rather than have people F around and find out on a 14er, they are going to build a new, much safer trail. And you know how the state's hitting everybody up to buy a Parks Pass when we renew our car registrations? A Smart Next viewer asked just how many people are opting in for that. One of Colorado's best-known names in beer has sold again. Breckenridge Brewery is being unloaded by Anheuser-Busch. It's being bought by a Canadian cannabis company called Tilray. Breck stopped being craft beer back in 2016 when it was sold to that international conglomerate AB InBev, best known obviously for Budweiser. Now Breck is being sold off in a package with 5 other breweries, a cidery, and an energy drink company. To give you some idea of how the market for former craft breweries has really declined in the last few years, the industry newsletter Brewbound reports that 8-company package, the sale announced today, was $85 million, 85 mil. Back in 2016, reports indicated that Breckenridge Brewery alone sold for about $70 million. The trails up and down Colorado's 14ers aren't just the paths that people have always taken. Often they are new trails that have been blazed by a nonprofit called the Colorado 14ers Initiative. And they're working on their biggest project yet on Mount Chavano outside Salida. It is a 6-year, $1.5 million trail project. The original trail's from back in the day, when miners were just trying to get to the top of the mountain as fast as possible. And that trail cuts through some fragile ecosystems that the nonprofit would like to protect. The trail also happens to be covered in grapefruit-sized rocks. So to solve for both those things, volunteers are going to create 2 new bypasses.
And they're working on a separate bypass, which will go avoid the alpine ecosystems that the current trail is cutting through and where all that erosion is occurring. And it'll carve a new trail through a more stable talus field that's made of rock. It will be more durable to handle the estimated 7,500 or so people that ascend that mountain each year.
That first bypass below tree line opened in June, or July rather. They're hoping second bypass will open next year. Full disclosure, one of your very first Word of Thanks microgiving campaigns supported their efforts. Tonight's next question comes from Montoya, wondering about the state's new program to get people to buy state parks passes right along with vehicle registration renewals.
Hi, this is Montoya in Brighton. Is the Keep Colorado Wild Pass between Colorado Motor Vehicle and Colorado Parks and Wildlife a pilot program? I'm curious how many Coloradans have opted into the program.
Montoya, that is an excellent question. I wondered about that too when I got my registration. So the Keep Colorado Wild Pass is that $29 opt-out fee on your vehicle registration. So you're gonna pay it unless you check the box that you don't want to pay it. Colorado Parks and Wildlife spokesperson says as of last month, they had sold more than 873,000 of them. That's huge revenue for things like the state park system, search and rescue teams, avalanche safety programs. Now, as for the usage of the passes, you'd think a ton more people have them, maybe more visitation. Not so. CPW says visitation is actually down this year. They're thinking that might have been because of Cough, cough, Danielle Grant. The weather that we have seen.
Are you trying to blame me for
No, no, no. I'm simply saying this is something that you have expertise on, because who wants to get stuck atop some, hill in a state park with lightning moving in?
Yeah, not me, that's for sure. But nice to see that there's so many folks taking advantage of that program. I did myself. So far, so good. As the month of August rolls on, we're above average in the rainfall department. Absolutely. Almost just shy of half of what we typically see throughout the entire month. Only a couple of days in. Off to the west we go, and you can still see some ominous looking skies. Can't rule out, say, maybe 1 or 2 little thunderstorms within the next couple of hours, but everything should scoot out by about 10 p.m. This afternoon, certainly a cooler one, 70s and 80s. I hope you're enjoying the break from the summer heat. We're in the 80s and low 90s off to southeastern Colorado, 70s, 80s up in the mountains. We do have a severe thunderstorm watch in place. This is going to be for eastern Colorado. Denver not included in that. As we zoom in here to the radar, you can see it's pretty quiet around the metro area. A few isolated showers toward Winter Park. The rest of the action moving out toward Akron and then further into Kansas, where they have severe thunderstorm warnings going all over the place and a whole lot of lightning out there. Those storms roll out, and by 11 p.m. our skies clear across the metro area. Tomorrow morning we'll watch out for a mix of sun and clouds. Clouds continuing to push back in tomorrow afternoon. We'll have a storm system roll across the state. This will usher in a couple of storms for the Denver area, but really the focus yet again will be across the far northeastern plains, as we are looking at the potential for more wild weather out there. We do have an enhanced risk for seeing severe weather right there around I-76. Temperatures tomorrow back to the mid-80s, a couple of degrees warmer than where we were, upper 60s into the 70s up in the mountains. So if you're trying to find some cooler temperatures, head up there. 82 on Wednesday, and then we dry things out. Back to the 90s on Friday. So far, Kyle, for the weekend, I have the 80s around and only a chance of storms coming our way on Saturday. So make those weekend plans now.
All right, will do. A word about how inexplicably long this program has lasted on the air. Next. It's called the 7-year itch, so I read. That about 7 years into a serious commitment, a marriage, say, that things start to decline. People lose interest, they get dissatisfied, they start to look elsewhere. I got to thinking about that because this program, Next, turned 7 over the weekend, and I started feeling just itchy all over. No, that's not true. No, I am very honestly telling you that doing this show, spending this time together each night, really is an honor, and often it is an absolute joy. I never imagined that Next would stay on the air for 7 years. This is kind of a transitory business. People come and go, shows come and go. That's just how it works. Next is still here because you're still here. You keep coming up with great questions that make us think, that make us smarter. You've shown that you really do prefer political reporting that does not bend the knee to power, but actually demands accountability and answers. And you've made it clear that you expect the evening news to be more than just a litany of tragedy, listing off the worst things that happened in a day, weather, sports, good night. We've been through a lot of days together here, about 2,000 episodes of Next. I'm not itching to leave. Hope you aren't either. So cheers to 7 years. We'll be back with your feedback. It's a sign that Colorado's real estate market's still out of hand. Danny and Dave saw this real estate deal in Highlands Ranch, just $500,000, and they say that you can't get a house for $500,000 anymore. If you see a sign that makes you do a double take, email it to next@9news.com or use the hashtag HeyNext. Shirley writes in tonight, Kathleen writes in tonight about the use of seclusion or isolation rooms in schools. She says that she worked in Dougco for 20 years and said that all the schools had a place for seclusion of students who were disruptive or violent. She said she believes a lot of districts, not just DPS, have rooms where students can calm down. And she says, why did it take so long to report this room? As in, why did it only come to light after the principal got fired for whistleblowing and was suing the district? I don't know. You'd have to ask DPS. Shirley says, happy anniversary. Changing to Next at 6 was a breath of fresh air. I agree, Shirley. Hope it still is so. See you next time.